You're tuned in to Word of Mom Radio here on the Word of Mom Media Network. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Moms After Dark here on Word of Mom Radio. I'm your host, Dori DiCarlo, and you know that we have been here for years with Word of Mom Radio, and now we are at this point that we can't stay silent anymore. As the women out there, as the moms out there, as grandmothers, as business women, we have a voice and we cannot stay silent about what is happening. Because after weeks of violence in Minneapolis and the surrounding areas that have seen executions of 2 Minnesota residents, it appears that our present administration has decided the Epstein files are less damning than government-sanctioned death squads in suburbia America. The DOJ has released what they call the last tranche of the files, including approximately 3 million documents and thousands of photos on Friday evening. Some of these documents, those that seem to have the most salacious information, were removed within 20 minutes after the file dump. But let's face it, they have been returned after an overwhelming outcry from the public. And with all of the people monitoring all of these sites, that 20 minutes has been enough for so many documents that are out there that I know we are all seeing. Now, we have to look legally at what we are saying here, because the events and these documents that have been released have not been verified. However, it is easy to verify these activities when the victims are threatened and allegedly some have even been disappeared. At this point, what is it going to take? How many more women are going to come forward before they actually start believing the women? It's amazing to me to listen to these men defending not being transparent, the fact that until the courts actually step in and start hauling people off to jail for not following court orders, this is going to continue. And I'm here again with Bobbi, and I want to turn this over to her because we started talking about Sasha Riley. I want her to give you a little bit of her background again, and let's start talking about what is coming out. So, Bobbi, it's time to get going again.
Thanks, Dori. We've been watching this, and you and I have been talking a lot together about what's been happening. And it's really hard to keep track of everything that's going on right now. So much violence is happening in the US. I work with people in Europe. I teach professional adults in Europe, and they're watching what's happening in America and saying, why aren't you doing anything? And I've had to say, oh, no, we are. They're just not showing all the protests, all of the things that we are doing on the level so that we don't cross the line to cause martial law to suddenly be invoked, which would destroy our elections and destroy our country as well as our democracy. But we really need to come forward. We need to be out there, and we need to really get serious about what's happening. So with regard to the document dump, there were a lot of things in there that I saw were very similar to what Sasha Riley has been saying for years. I've seen text messages. I have seen posts on social media, and these posts that he has been posting. Now, Sasha Riley is a man, and what happened to him, he had forgotten about until he was an adult. As an adult, Sasha Riley was called into his commanding officer's office and asked if he had ever been forced to do child porn. He said he suddenly had this rush of all of these memories coming together and coming out about the different things that happened to him. There was a first sergeant who was in the room to be a witness of this interview of Sasha Riley, and I have seen the text messages between him and a reporter, and he said, yes, I was there. Yes, I heard it all. It's been a while since it happened, but I do remember this happening. So there is child pornography out there that was made from these Epstein episodes, these events that he would put on. And one of the things Sasha Riley has consistently said is that Donald Trump was there. And as we see that a lot of these events, some of them were happening at Mar-a-Lago. They had a small, very personal audience of billionaires who were involved in this good old boy thing that was happening. And also, apparently, Donald Trump's offspring were there as they physically assaulted young girls, measuring their private areas with a finger in order to auction these girls off. They were called the calendar girl parties. This was brought up before. Now, the fact that Donald Trump was the one who measured, it came out before the 2016 elections that he often bragged about grabbing women by their genitalia. This isn't very hard to understand. It's not very hard to read this and say, yeah, that definitely happened, because he's admitted he does it. 26 women came forward, and one woman said she was very severely assaulted by him in a dressing room.
I'm going to interrupt you because I actually have downloaded the exact quote. Mm-hmm. This is the exact quote that Bobbi is talking about. And I'm sorry, but I'm actually going to say it. I'm not going to be shy. Just a reminder, I did try to fuck her. She was married. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. Then all of a sudden I see her. She's not got the big phony tits and everything. I got used to some Tic Tacs just in case. I started kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to the beautiful, to just start kissing them. It's like a magnet, just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what he said. And that was the tape that came out with Billy Bush, that guy lost his job. For 4 years, he couldn't even get a job interview because he laughed. And a few months later, that man was elected as president of the United States the first time. Huh? So, and I'm sorry, because that's a brutal quote. And it makes me sick to read it, but we can't pussyfoot around with this man anymore. This is who he is. And he's never lied about who he is. This is the whole thing. Literally said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. Literally said, I am going to come after all of these immigrants. I'm going to clean this country. And amazingly, the Hispanic community can't believe they're deporting Hispanic people. And now they're coming after them. He literally said he was going to do it. So I had to interrupt what Bobbi was saying because literally we need to be remembered of his exact words. So Bobbi, back to you, and I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm glad that you interrupted. Yeah, sometimes I'm not sure how much to say, but
this goes in restricted. It's Moms After Dark.
But also, we should keep in mind, as you were reading that, I was thinking about the episode of Howard Stern, where Donald talked about the Miss Teen pageant. Because he owns it, he can walk in and see these young girls, 14, 16 years old, naked. And there were girls at the pageant who had verified he had done that. How is that such a big leap from that to what we're reading in the Epstein files?
You know, Howard on that episode asked him, would you bang a 24-year-old? And he said, well, of course I would. Robin Givens said, well, how young is too young? And his response was, well, I wouldn't want a 12-year-old. That was his response. Not 24 years young. I wouldn't want a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And again, this is stuff that is public domain. And people, again, because this is their fantasy. Look at all of the MAGA men across this country, police officers, all of these different elected officials that are now getting taken to jail because of the child pornography, soliciting ICE, who are soliciting young boys and young girls. Well, I'm ICE, you can't do anything to me. Yes, they can. I mean, it's literally that the words of the president matter. They really truly do. And when the guy at the top is telling you that women are just there to do whatever he feels like with, men feel emboldened. Imagine that. They actually feel emboldened that they can do whatever they want. They can have t-shirts that says your body, my choice. It's unbelievable. And when you look at Sasha Riley and what he is talking about and what his adoptive father did, back to you, Bobbi, about pulling all of this out because you've really read all of this firsthand.
Well, Sasha Riley did an hours-long interview with a journalist who made sure before she released the interviews that he was out of the country. She released the interviews, the audio files, on her Substack. And I have to say, if it weren't for a few influencers that I follow, I may not have heard about him. But the stuff that he has said that has happened, and like I said, there are videos out there. You can find the videos. They are there. They were doing snuff films with children. One time he said he was there with another child. They were just finishing, and then a mob of men came in, beat her, sexually assaulted her, then shot her. And that these events were videotaped. One time they took the girl into another room. He heard her screaming from the other room and then heard a gunshot, and he never saw her again. These are from the Sasha Riley interview. And then he said that he was told by one of the men there, don't worry, boys are hard to find. Boys who they can assault like that. Now, he was adopted by a pilot who allegedly would fly Donald Trump around. He was allegedly Donald Trump's pilot and sometimes security. And he adopted Sasha Riley when he was very young for the sole purpose of trafficking him. There are girls who are being adopted in America for the sole purpose of trafficking them. Girls who were runaways, they would bring them to these parties and then they would be gone. They would be gone the next day. And in the new tranche of Epstein files, there was a girl who was at these parties and said to the FBI, when I was there, girls were getting killed. Girls, this was her words, not mine, girls were getting killed and their bodies are buried on that farm, on that ranch. There were other things, other people that they witnessed. Sasha Riley has named some very high-profile senators and a Supreme Court justice. Sasha Riley named Clarence Thomas as having been there, and that his adopted father said to him, well, you know, we're so excited that we got somebody on the Supreme Court. And he was really shocked because Clarence Thomas is a Black man and they were all white supremacists. So it shocked him that his father was excited about getting a Black man on the Supreme Court, but it was okay because he was their Black man who came to their parties and would help protect them. So it's a big old good old boy network. Andy Biggs, Jim Jordan, Lindsey Graham are all listed in by Sasha Riley as having been there. In fact, he said that he after the girl was killed, the person there told Sasha Riley that he had to do everything the next person who came through the door told him to do, and then he won't die. The next person who came through the door was Donald Trump. Donald Trump sexually assaulted him. He alleged that he also did something to Donald Trump to try and kill him because he believed when Trump was done that he was going to die, that he was going to kill Sasha. And one of the things he said was Epstein was not the top person in this ring. He said that Donald Trump was. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But as I read through the Epstein files, and as any of you read through the Epstein files, you will see, you can decide for yourself, does that verify any of the stuff that Sasha already said? When you have more than one person saying the same thing is happening and the same people who are involved are doing this, then there's a good possibility this is true, because these people didn't know each other who are talking. The girl who said people are buried on that farm, she was told by security, by Donald Trump's security, that if she told the soul, she would be fertilizing the back nine with the other cunts. So she knew on the golf course. They were talking about one of Donald Trump's golf courses. So the reason that I believe about these things happening on these farms is I was going through school. I was pre-law. I was going to be a lawyer until my daughter had a heart transplant, changed my life completely, changed my trajectory 180 degrees. But I did work for a legal research publishing company. I did from time to time something called headnote editing. That is when you get a case that is on appeal and you get the judge's decision. From the judge's decision, he will give points of law, but he will also talk about other cases that are similar to the case that they are hearing right now. And I had to go in and I had to look at the points of law at the very beginning of the body of the decision, and then find the areas where those were and put them into the citator so that lawyers could find them more easily. So when you're reading one case about one thing, you are reading a lot of different cases about that are the same. And one of the cases I came across was about this group of rich people who had family members and friends, high, powerful people in California at a farm, who brought their children on weekends and they sexually assaulted them and they beat them and they killed them. And that was my first exposure. This is Dori's first exposure to all of this stuff. I had my moment where my mind went completely bonkers for a while. I wanted to lock my daughter in a room so that I would never have to wonder if she'd disappear or something like that. I was scared to death. I've been through all the emotions that Dori is going through right now. And as I read these, I keep thinking about that. I keep thinking about that farm. And I keep thinking about the thing that Sasha Riley said about how they were at another farm party, just like the one I read about, and they got raided when this was going on. And Donald Trump walked in, and according to Sasha Riley, Trump said, I want to kill somebody. I want to kill something. What can I kill? And they said, no, this isn't one of those parties, but we have some puppies and we need to get rid of them. So Sasha Riley, this young boy who they first started trafficking him at 9 years old, watched as Donald Trump systematically, one by one, tortured and murdered these puppies in front of him. I don't wonder anymore why Trump has no dogs, why there are no dogs in the White House. They say a person who will kill an animal, a puppy, a cat, one, especially if they torture them, they are a serial killer. They will kill other people. Do with that what you will.
Sociopaths are born. You are born this way. This isn't a behavior that is learned. There are those people that do not have a conscience. When you look, they keep showing all these memes of what this man is looking like and how he is deteriorating. And my feeling is he is rotting from the inside out, because he's been dead inside his whole life. And now it is just literally coming out. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. We can keep protesting, we can keep calling, we can keep doing these things, but it is now up to the public servants that we friggin' elected to do their jobs. Bobbi and I were talking about it. That is the cabinet and the vice president. There comes a time where you have to stop. The office of the president of the United States is not one person. It is the office. And this man has poisoned it, tainted it, done everything he can to now make it a for-profit enterprise. For the first time really ever in the United States, his first time in office, it was covert. Now it is blatant. We cannot let this happen. And what has to happen, Republicans, former Republicans, all of you who have come out of the mist, need to be calling your Republican officials, Congress, Senate, legislators, state senators. You need to be calling them, telling them they have to put the pressure on these people to either invoke Article 25 or impeach this man. We cannot keep sitting by as a country. There are enough allegations out there that's it. It's it. We can't allow this to keep happening. The world is watching us. And every minute of every day, all we are doing is losing credibility on a global level. First of all, the fact that this guy got reelected, you had the world just going, you're kidding me, right? It wasn't just the biggest fear of people like me and Bobbi and the Americans in this country who knew who this man was. On a global level, this was the biggest fear. Why? Because of what this man is doing right now. He'll blow up this world before he will let all of this come out. So unless our elected officials do their jobs, oh my gosh, how much farther are we as a nation going to let this go? And I mean, we are wrapping up, but this is something seriously, people.
As parents, how can we read these statements, listen to Sasha Riley's interview? How can we listen to these things and not be afraid for our children, our grandchildren? If we can tie it back into Minnesota, those things that are happening there, they're happening across the country still. I know people who are citizens. They've lived here their entire lives. Their children were born here, and they are taking their kids out of school. My youngest stepdaughter is taking her kids out of school. And I asked her why. And she said, because of ICE. She is afraid because they're going into the schools where she lives, where they live. So how can we sit by and let our children down again and again? We have let our children down for so many decades that this stuff is happening under our noses and we did nothing. The people who knew that were in positions where they could do something did nothing. There were plea deals. There were people who paid a lot of money to not be let go for their Epstein files to be released. Ghislaine Maxwell came out just before these files were released and said 29 co-conspirators paid money so that they would not be outed in these files. How are we allowing this to happen? How do we have prosecutors that are allowing this? If you have children, and if this doesn't make you sick to the core, there is something wrong.
The reality is, and again, it's like I keep saying, it is our elected officials who have forgotten that they're public servants who actually need to protect the public. The public needs to be protected from this. I keep seeing videos now of law enforcement pulling up as ICE is trying to drag somebody out of a car and stopping them until the courts actually slap the cuffs on these people like Bondi who are ignoring court orders and everything else. Even though they dumped 3 million documents, there's still 6 or 7 million that they haven't released yet because they're worried about sullying people's reputations. No, because they are covering up for the predator in chief that is taking our country down with them. And until we, the people, stop electing people who let these things happen, we talk about term limits. We, the people, could have put term limits on all of these people and never elected them more than twice. But no, you get lazy. and you just keep leaving the same people in office. Oh, they're going to do a good job. Doesn't matter. Their term limits should be set by us, not them. And we can make that happen. But we have to. Yes, protests matter. Yes, doing them peacefully matter. But we have to be reaching out to our legislators, demanding they do their job. There's enough out there that they have to take action on it now. And we're going to close out. We so thank you. We'll be back next week with whatever else comes out about this man, because we're just not going to stay silent anymore. We can't. So Bobbi, thanks. I mean, we could, let's face it, go on, but we can only absorb so much. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. I think it's important that everyone keeps their heads clear and keeps their eyes open, because there's so much that's happening, and this isn't it. This isn't all. Stay safe, everyone, and love you all.
And I said it last time, I'm going to say it again. God bless America. And we are Americans, and evil never triumphs. Good will always triumph over evil. We have to stay smart. We have to stay focused. We have to stay peaceful, and not let our voices be silenced. So till next time.
She is sure, she is strong, she is true.